Live now to Matt Keogh, Labor MP from Western Australia. Matt, firstly on that point that Alan Tudge was making, do you think that it is the states dragging their feet on infrastructure that's seeing the economy not going as fast as it could?
I think the federal government's lack of action on bringing forward infrastructure is hurting the economy. It could be doing better, and we've seen acknowledgement of that by numerous people, and infrastructure spend, something that's been mentioned time and time again by the Reserve Bank of Australia Governor as something that the government needs to be doing, and it's something that the states would clearly like the government to get involved in helping them bring forward infrastructure. I think nearly every state around Australia could point to at least one project, major project, that they would like to see be able to be implemented sooner. And quite frankly, I think the commuters of Australia and the people in every state would be able to identify something that they would like to see the federal government get its act into gear on to make their journeys faster, to make their journeys safer, and to see some of that money flowing into our local economies to really strengthen our overall economic position.
Isn't that east-west link in Melbourne, though, a perfect case example where the federal government's put that money aside, billions of dollars, and it's the state government refusing to take it up? Well,
there's numerous issues around that particular project, and not being from Victoria, I'm not across each and every one of them. But here in Western Australia, there's another project that the federal government has its heart set on, even though it's not actually a project that the people or the state government want to proceed with. It's sort of this funny game that the federal government's playing where they say, oh, we've got money for a project. They're just not projects that the people actually want. Meanwhile, state governments are saying, we would like you to help us with projects X, Y and Z around the country, and the federal government is saying, oh no, we don't want to help you with those projects. It's trying to make it look like it's going to do something when really it has no intention of helping whatsoever.
Now, as part of this visit to the United States, the Australian government's pledged $150 million for space agency development. Do you agree with Joel Fitzgibbon that that money would be better spent on drought-stricken farmers?
Well, I think the observation that Joel made was a very good one, which is you can walk and chew gum at the same time, and that whilst I think we all have a romanticism for space, and it's good to see now that the government has finally set up a space agency, that they're engaging with NASA, what they also need to be doing at the same time is getting on with helping our farmers who are suffering from huge problems coming from drought. The government tries to talk a big game here, but when we look at what they're actually delivering on the ground, it's not much. They've got a supplement program that's not actually delivering in support of farming households around Australia. They set up a fund to help farmers that are facing drought, and that won't be paying out any money for at least another year. And so we hear from the government often, but they're not actually delivering for the farmers that are suffering on the ground. And of course, it's not just the farmers, it's the whole communities out there that suffer through drought, because when farmers aren't in a good position, those communities overall aren't in a good position. And I think Joel very rightly made the observation that for all of the publicity and the great things that will come from investing in a space agency and working closely with NASA, why is the government not also doing what is desperately needed here at home?
The Industry Minister, Karen Andrews, was on just a short time ago saying that there's going to be 20,000 jobs created from this $150 million investment, but she couldn't guarantee how many of those would be Australian jobs. She just said that that would be a priority to have Australians and not be seeking people from overseas. Do you think that's good enough?
I think it's quite concerning, and it's a great example of how this government will chase a headline without being concerned about the detail. One of the things that's always concerning for us is to make sure that the opportunity for Australian jobs and developing Australian know-how is part of these projects. It's the same things that we sort of see and the concerns that we see out of the Navy shipbuilding program and what's happening in defence. We want to make sure that these large investments actually deliver on creating Australian jobs, developing Australian know-how, giving people good training opportunities. Obviously, the government hasn't worked out any of the detail at all. It's good to see that they're working with NASA. We want to see the detail so that we can see the opportunities not only for creating Australian jobs, jobs here at home, but also what are the opportunities for our great businesses that are doing great innovation in spaces like resources, where here in Western Australia we've got great remote operations centres and technology. What's the opportunity for those companies to get involved in the supply chains for space and for NASA, and having those technologies move from beyond just the resources industry and into the space industry?
And just finally, there were some alarming reports coming out of 60 Minutes on Channel 9 yesterday about allegations against Ben Roberts-Smith. Do you think enough's been done to investigate these allegations?
Well, clearly it would appear that there's 2 investigations that are ongoing. It's appropriate that those investigations be left to run their course. No one likes investigations to drag out, but of course, where those investigations involve having to potentially interview or understand what has occurred in a foreign country, it can mean that these investigations will take longer than people would otherwise like, because I think no matter who we are, you want to have an investigation like this wrapped up as soon as possible. But the important thing here now is to let those investigations run their course.